I thank the Leader of the House for answering the business questions, and we now come to the Select Committee statement on behalf of the Procedure Committee. Dame Karen Bradley will speak for up to 10 minutes, during which no interventions may be taken. At the conclusion of her statement, I will call members to ask questions on the subject of the statement. These should be brief questions, not full speeches. And can I emphasise that questions should be directed to the Select Committee Chair and not the relevant government minister. Frontbenchers may take part in questioning. I call Dame Karen Bradley.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. With permission, I would like to make a statement on the Procedure Committee report, Common Scrutiny of Secretaries of State in the House of Lords, that was published yesterday. May I start by thanking both the Backbench Business Committee for finding time for this statement and also the clerks of the committee who have put this report together in very short order to ensure that we could report as soon as possible in the new year on this important matter. You will know, Madam Deputy Speaker, that we were asked by Mr Speaker to examine this issue after the appointment of Lord Cameron as Foreign Secretary. He asked us whether any historic precedents could be adapted to allow for the participation of non-members in Commons proceedings and whether options for scrutiny should extend beyond departmental questions to statement, urgent questions and debates. I would like to thank the 131 colleagues who responded to our survey and the others who submitted evidence to our inquiry. Almost 9 in 10 of those who responded to our survey wanted to see more direct accountability of Lord Secretaries of State in the Commons. Around 85% thought it should include departmental question times, urgent questions and statements. Almost 2/3 thought it should take place in the Chamber. Some colleagues raised concerns that changing our procedures to facilitate scrutiny would legitimise the appointment of more senior ministers in the Lords. The constitutional question of in which house senior ministers sit is not in the Procedure Committee's remit, but our clear preference as MPs, the elected representatives of our constituents, is that senior Secretaries of State should sit in the Commons. That is why our recommendations are limited to this Parliament to deal with the issues the House faces now. They should not set a precedent for the future. We have great respect for the work the House of Lords does in its scrutiny of the government. The other place has great expertise and experience of foreign policy and international affairs amongst its members. The Foreign Affairs and International Development Committees do excellent work holding the FCDO to account. And I support their calls for Lord Cameron to appear regularly before them, as Secretaries of State in the Commons appear regularly before their departmental committees. But their work complements and adds to scrutiny in this chamber. It does not replace it. And as the chair of the International Development Committee told us, select committees in the chamber have unique mandates, functions and purposes. They are not synonymous. Scrutiny by elected MPs on behalf of their constituents is a fundamental part of our democratic system, as is the debate across the dispatch boxes between ministers and the opposition. Therefore, every MP should have the ability to directly question the Foreign Secretary. The Minister for Development and his ministerial colleagues do an excellent job, but the Foreign Secretary is ultimately accountable to the FCDO. As the Leader of the House acknowledged in her evidence to us, there will always be some issues that the House and our constituents would expect the Foreign Secretary to answer for. We considered proposals for using Westminster Hall or Committee Room 14 instead of the Chamber, but they would restrict participation to a fraction of the House. We do not believe that is acceptable or practical. That is why we have recommended that for the rest of this Parliament, Secretaries of State who sit in the Lords should appear at departmental question times and make ministerial statements and answer urgent questions that a Secretary of State in the Commons would normally do. They should speak from within the bar of the House, not the dispatch box. The dispatch box should continue to be reserved for members of this House. Such an arrangement will rightly require the agreement of the House of Lords. We are confident they will agree with us that in the modern age, And at a time of growing global tensions, it is not tenable for the Foreign Secretary to not be scrutinised by elected MPs on behalf of our constituents. I would therefore urge the Government to bring forward the necessary motion as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Richard Ford.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Following yesterday's debate on the situation in the Red Sea, there was no retrospective vote on UK military action, and the debate was addressed at the end by the Minister of State from the Foreign and Commonwealth and Development Office. And while he is a brilliant minister and answered those things very expertly, I wonder if she thinks, in the light of the work that her Select Committee has been doing to think about accountability in the House of Lords, whether another precedent is Lord Carrington, who resigned following the Falklands War for not having anticipated the Argentinian invasion of the Falklands, despite members of this House having warned about that.
Karen Bradley.
Thank you very much, and I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. On the matter of whether a vote is required for military action, that is not a matter that the Procedure Committee deals with, but I'm sure the front bench have heard that. On the matter of the Lord Carrington, he will recall, of course, that at that time the Prime Minister appointed a Deputy Foreign Secretary to sit in this House. So there was somebody who had the ability to scrutinise the whole ability to talk for the whole department of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, as it then was, in this chamber. But he makes a very pertinent point.
William Wragg.
I thank my right honourable friend for ably chairing the Procedure Committee in its deliberations and the compiling of this topical and timely report. And would she assure members such as myself, who perhaps can be regarded as sceptical of innovations in this House, that the proposals contained within this excellent report are deeply wedded in tradition? Indeed, it was the case that in 1814, the Duke of Wellington came to the bar of the House to answer questions of MPs. Now, while the Duke of Wellington and Lord Cameron have enjoyed rather different campaigns in terms of Europe, it is nonetheless deeply wedded in tradition.
I'm not my honourable friend, the chair of the Constitutional Committee, and he, I know, is very, very concerned with matters of constitution, and that we make sure that we are looking at precedents. And I can assure him that, as Mr. Speaker asked us to do, we started from the historic precedents. And he rightly cites the example of the Duke of Wellington in 1814, who I believe received the plaudits of members of this House whilst at the bar of the House. And I think a painting of such can be seen in the National Portrait Gallery.
Jeff Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I congratulate the Right Honourable Lady and her committee on what I think is an excellent report, and I very much agree with the recommendations. Can I ask firstly, the Leader of the House said earlier that the Government would respond shortly. Has the Right Honourable Lady had any indication from the Government that they will accept the recommendations of the committee? And secondly, she said that it needs the agreement of the Lords. What sort of timescale and how quickly can that agreement and the process be agreed?
Thank the honourable gentleman for his question and for his comments about the report. So the report was only published yesterday, and therefore I wouldn't expect to have heard any response from the Government yet. I'm sure that the Leader will ensure that a response is forthcoming shortly. And he is absolutely right. We have to bear in mind that the other place is an independent body, and members of the other place are governed by the rules of the other place, which does say that those members should not appear before this House without permission, explicit permission from the other place, and that includes appearances in front of select committees, bill committees and other such matters. So we will wait to see how long such matters might take, but I do hope that the other place will recognise and acknowledge the real and right concerns there are in this place that we can properly scrutinise. I think we have to remember that in this House we represent the people who sent us here. And the other place has great expertise. It has some great minds there, but they do not speak on behalf of constituents in the way that we have to do as elected members, and that is an important distinction.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I thank the Chair of the Committee for our statement this morning and for the very succinct and helpful answers that the Right Honourable Lady has given. We all know the Lord Cameron, and we recognise his ability and qualities and to do the job that we need. But I'm very, very conscious, Madam Deputy Speaker, in this world that we live in, a very dangerous world where there's wars and rumours of wars, to quote the Bible, and a biblical connotation. It is my opinion that in circumstances such as the FCDO's Secretary of State being a member of the other place leaves a gap in accountability. I think today that accountability gap has been addressed. Does the committee believe that the accountability in this House is the priority, and because of that our constituents deserve that as well?
Dame Karen Bradley.
Thank you, and I thank the honourable gentleman, my honourable friend from Strangford, for his comments. I would have been disappointed if he hadn't contributed to this statement, so I'm very grateful that he stayed to take part. And he's absolutely right. This was the concern that the committee has had throughout, that there is a democratic deficit. If we cannot raise those concerns on behalf of our constituents, we are the ones that are in our constituencies, hearing what our constituents are concerned about, and really do know what people are feeling on the ground in a way that, and with no criticism to any member of the other place, they simply don't have that day-to-day contact with constituents, and that's why we felt it was so important, particularly in the world that we see today, that we were able to properly scrutinise the work of the FCDO and the Secretary of State. We're not suggesting that the Secretary of State takes part in debates. We do accept that debates are a different matter, but there will always be statements and some urgent questions where it is absolutely appropriate for a Secretary of State to take them rather than a Minister of State. And again, no criticism here whatsoever of the absolutely excellent ministers in the FCDO, but it is a Secretary of State does have to, at times, be the one who responds, and that's what we put in our report.
That's good.
I thank the Select Committee Chair for her statement, and we now move on to the backbench debate.